Hello YouTube, LD50 here with my first build video. I'm going to be showing my Amara Phaseslam build and talking about the skills that I choose, the weapons that I use, and just a general bit of waffle. So we'll jump straight in to the skills. I've taken my comm off so that we can just talk about the skill points that we're going to spend. We'll talk about weapons, gear, comm, etc. in a moment. We're going to work our way all the way down to the capstone, but first of all we need to put 3 points into fast hands. That gives us 19% reload speed and 36% on the mode switch speed. Weapon swap speed again is also useful. I don't tend to use Malawan weapons, so the mode switch speed is generally, in my case, used for weapons like the Dictator that have an alternate fire mode. We'll stick 1 point into Violent Tapestry and 1 point into Do Harm, just to get us down the tree. Gives us a little bit of action skill damage and status effect chance, based upon the rush stacks. Then we'll put 3 points into Transcend, because 27% critical hit damage is not to be sniffed at. 5 points into Restless for the 25% cooldown. 1 point into Ascendant, because that buffs our action skill augment, which is going to be stillness of mind, and then 1 point into Alacrity to get us down the skill tree. It does give us a little bit extra reload speed, always useful. On the fourth tier of the tree we need to put 3 points into Wrath, because 20% gun damage and a further 20% that lasts for 8 seconds after action skill use is a great damage boost. 3 points into Laid Bare for a further 25% damage increase for enemies damaged by our action skill. The playstyle for Phaseslam Amara is very much aggressive in the enemy's face, so you are going to be doing damage with your action skill all the time. And then finally we'll put 3 points into Laid Bare for the fire rate. If you use Malawan weapons, then obviously the charge time bonus there is super as well. Moving down, 1 point into Remnant. We only need the overkill damage. The Remnant damage is negligible. And then finally 1 point into Avatar, which allows us to use our action skill effectively an extra time whilst it's cooling down. And it also gives us the extra 10 rush stacks. As I've said, this is not a rush stack build, but they are useful. We're going to concentrate then on our Fist of the Elements tree. We have 3 out of 3 points into Steady Hands, Handling and Accuracy. I avoid Anima because, well, the status effect duration and damage can damage you more than it can damage enemies sometimes. Particularly if you take a status effect or damage over time from a barrel and there are no enemies around for you to get a second wind of, you will bleed out. So I leave Anima alone. It's a bit of a trap. To get down the tree though, I need to put another 2 points somewhere, so I'm putting them into Infusion. That's taking 16% of my gun damage and converting it into my action skill element. Still not a bad thing. Then we'll of course put 5 out of 5 into Tempest. This is a magnificent skill, giving us 30% elemental damage boost and a further 20% boost to shock. I keep my action skill element based as shock, so there I'm getting 50% damage on that, and I tend to use shock weapons. We'll stick 1 point into Illuminated Fist. I don't do a lot of melee, but if I do, at least it is enhanced by my action skill element. And we will not be taking Dread because I'm not phase grasping. So to get down the tree further, I will put my points into Wildfire. Not the greatest skill in the world, but not the worst. Right, we'll put 1 point into Deep Well for the extra magazine size, and 3 points into Indiscriminate. Indiscriminate is a great skill that is boosted by stillness of mind. The ricochet chance is 30% base and 60% if affected by stillness of mind, and the damage is half with standard ricochet, and the damage is 75% for bullets ricocheted after you have used Stillness of Mind. That is a marvellous, marvellous damage boost. To get down the tree further, I'll put 1 point into Catharsis, just because I like the boom. You could put a further point here or a further point here, just to open up Sustainment. Sustainment, I just put 2 points in. I find that 8% damage dealt is sufficient to keep me alive. We have 7 points left, and we're going to stick them into 3 interpersonal space, because that's 36% damage when you're up close, and you will be up close all the time with this build. And then I'll put 2 points into Clarity. I tend not to increase my maximum health. I prefer to have a little bit of passive regen on all the time. Finally, 2 points are going to go into Samsara for the 3.3% per stack gun damage and health regen. So that's coming up around about 16% damage and 16% health regen, and it goes on for 20 seconds. It's a good skill to have. So that's our skills, and then finally our action skill. Of course, this is what this build is all about, is Phaseslam. Now, Phaseslam has a 35% a 35-second cooldown. That's quite a long cooldown, but we are going to reduce that with the use of our skills here, Restless, and from our class mod, and from any passives on class mod as well. Now, bear in mind that the cooldown is increased by 15% for the use of Stillness of Mind. However, Stillness of Mind is an excellent skill to use with Phaseslam, because it will keep your enemies in place, giving you time to dispatch them. When we talk about the weapons, you'll see why we like to keep our enemies in space, in the same space. So that's the skill tree. I keep my action element, as I've said, to shock, because I tend to use shock weapons, and also because on the red tree here, Fist of the Elements, shock gets an extra 20% damage boost. We'll go down and talk about our class mod first. Class mod, I tend to use the Golden Rule. Now, you could use a Phaseslam, you could use a Spiritual Driver. If that's your thing, use them. No problem with that at all. Obviously, with a Spiritual Driver, you'll need to use a Elemental Projector artifact to get the most out of it. With a Phaseslam, obviously, you can use whichever artifact you like. However, Phaseslam is putting points into Anima. I haven't yet found a com that Phaseslam com that doesn't, or certainly that doesn't put any points into the red tree at all. So I am sticking with my Golden Rule. This particular Golden Rule is boosting 3 skills. It's boosting 2 points into Helping Hands, which is a little damage reduction, always welcome. It's putting 2 points into Mindfulness, which is giving us some extra shield regen delay, and it's giving us 2% movement speed per stack. We can have up to 25 stacks, so we potentially can get quite a lot of movement out of that. And then finally, this particular class mod is giving me 1 extra point in Laid Bare. Ideally, I'd like 3 extra points in Laid Bare to increase this damage, but I've yet to find a com with good passives like this that does that. Passives on this com: weapon fire rate, weapon damage, and action skill cooldown rate. The com itself, its special ability is to increase the action skill cooldown rate for damage taken, and as you're going to be amongst the enemy a lot, dealing damage and taking damage, this com is a brilliant com for this build. Now, I use the Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge. You could easily use a Banjo, or if you're going to use the Spiritual Driver, then obviously some sort of Elemental Projector would be better, but I happen to like the Pearl. It works well. This one has 50% magazine size and 12% fire rate bonus. My shield, I'm using a Transformer. If you don't know about the Transformer, it is 100% resistant to shock, and it is also recharged by shock damage, which is another reason why I like to use shock weapons, particularly those that have got splash damage like the lob. Helps me keep my shield up, and also means that I won't get downed at the first opportunity by a shock enemy like a shock badass. My grenade, I'm going to use something with an ASE element on. My shield also has an ASE element on. That's action skill end. This one has bonus radiation after my action skill end for 10 seconds. We're trying to use our action skill every 10 seconds, so we're trying to keep this anointment alive most of the time, and the same on the grenade. Weapon wise, well, I am using everything with a Phaseslam anointment. The Phaseslam anointment quadruples the damage. It gives you 300% damage on top of what you have, so 4 times damage in total. That's over 2500 damage points per bullet. That is an enormous amount of damage out of an SMG. That's why I use this particular anointment on these weapons, like the lob for single target damage. The redistributor is a great weapon for mobs because of the amped shot that is chained to nearby enemies. Every 7th shot is amped. The reason I like to have fire rate bonuses is it means you get more amped shots per second. I'm using one of these in corrosive as well, just in case I need to match elements with an armored enemy, and I have a ×6 dictator for pesky enemies that won't take damage, or if I don't have the right element, or they're just a large enemy that need to be taken down quickly. Obviously with the ×6 dictator in bipod mode, it gives you 14 bullets per shot. And that's our build. We're going to jump into the gameplay in a minute and go and see what this build can do. I do run with my Guardian rank on, but this will work quite happily with no Guardian rank. If you want to play in slightly harder mode and give yourself more of a challenge, then obviously disable your rank and have more fun. But we're going to leave Guardian rank on for now, and we're going to move over to Athenas, and I will catch you up there. Right, here we are on Athenas. I would just like to add that I think Athenas is a beautiful map. It's not the most challenging map, but it is nice and linear, and it is rather pretty. So this is where we're going to demonstrate our build today. I want to work my way over to the enemies, activate my action skill, and as you can see, no problem with mobbing whatsoever.
Waste of my time. Talk to the hand. Not today.
And as you can see, this build has absolutely no problem in Mayhem mode 4 dispatching even large badass enemies. It's a very, very powerful build, very fun, and I do recommend you give it a try. So as you can see with the golden rule and our other buffs to our action skill cooldown, it's coming back very, very quickly. Right, we'll work our way over and take out this badass first. Right, we'll work our way through the rest of the map and take the boss out.
Let's go around, huh? A massacre.
Right, we've run through the map and we're just going to face the last boss now. As you can see, it's a very, very powerful build and has no trouble at all on Mayhem 4. I would thoroughly recommend giving this build a go. Let's go and finish off Captain Tron. And as you can see, just a few shots from the lob with the Phaseslam anointment and he is absolute toast. So I hope you have enjoyed this video and I hope that it may be of some help to you. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and maybe even subscribe, help the channel out a little bit. Bye for now.